I'm Randy McAbee, Tackle Warehouse Pro. Today we're out here on the lake. It's right in the middle of fall. Water temperature's starting to drop, and the best way to try to locate and catch fish in the fall is with a lipless crankbait or a rattle trap. A lot of the fish this time of year, they'll gang up out on the main lake, points out in the front of these creeks, and they'll push the bait back into the backs. So what I like to do is run and gun and try to cover as many creeks as I can. And with the lipless crankbait, you can fish real fast. You just burn the bank. And when I come into a cove, I don't just fish from the main lake all the way to the back. I'll idle in, keeping an eye on my graph out in the front, and see if that bait's balled up, and see if I can graph any fish out in the front. And I'll idle to about the middle of the cove, and then I'll fish in one side all the way to the back, and then fish out the other side out to about halfway. And every cove I go to, when I idle in, if I graph any bait or fish out in the front, I'll mark it on my GPS and then run to the next cove, fish the back, run to the next cove, fish the back. And then when I'm done fishing all the backs of the coves, I'll run back to my waypoints and I'll start fishing the mouths. And what I mean by fishing the mouths is I'm still using a rattle trap or a lipless crankbait. I'll get out there, say it's 30 foot of water, and I'll get right in the middle where I marked that bait, and I'll make long casts all the way up the middle. Let it sink to the bottom. Once it hits the bottom, I'll pump the rod up, let it flutter back to the bottom. Pump the rod up, let it flutter back to the bottom. And it's a good way to cover a lot of water, even in that deep water. It's almost like fishing a spoon, but you can actually fish this rattle trap a lot faster. The rod I like to use, it's a 7'3". It's a medium action rod. It's got plenty of backbone with a really soft tip, so I can throw these things a long ways. Fast gear ratio reel, 7-to-1, so I can burn that bait in shallow water, plus have my boat moving fast. And a line I like to use is braided line for two reasons. When I get to the backs of those coves, a lot of the backs of the coves in the fall is going to have a little bit of grass. And once this rattle trap hits the grass, I can yank it free and clear that rattle trap, and it'll keep swimming of grass. And a lot of times that's when I'm going to get bit. And then the other reason is when I go out to the mouths of these coves and yo-yo that bait down there deep, in that deep water, if I get a bite, I can feel it real well, and it's a real positive hook set, because a lot of times these fish are just slapping at it. When I rip it up off the bottom, they'll just slap at it. And once they hit it, you want to get hooks in them quick. We're going to head out to the mouth of this cove where we graph some bait on the way in, and we're going to try that yo-yo technique and fish the mouth of it all the way in. There you can see the fish on the graph. These are the fish that I marked on the way into this cove. What you want to do is line up, make that long cast all the way up the cove. Let this bait sink all the way down to the bottom, kind of keeping a tight line. Once that bait hits the bottom, it's a real simple technique. You just lift the rod, you can feel that bait vibrate up, kind of just give it a little bit of line, keeping it somewhat tight. Hits the bottom, lift it up. Once you lift that bait up to the top, you don't want to just drop your rod and give it line. What happens is that bait can spiral down and it can catch the line with one of the hooks and foul the bait, and you ruin the cast. So you just kind of keep a semi-tight line. It'll keep that bait nice and straight, falling back to the bottom. And the other reason is if a fish does happen to hit it on the fall, you feel the bite and you can set the hook. This time of year, when you're fishing the middle of these creeks, there can be an old creek bed with a little bit of brush, but it's not so much structure related as it is bait related. This time of year, they're feeding up heavy to try to go to their wintering spots. And once you find that bait, you'll find the fish. And this technique here, it's real simple to do. You get in the middle of them, they're real easy to catch. The colors I like to use this time of year is I just try to match the hatch. On this bait here, it's a Lucky Craft LV500, and it's American shad color. It's about the most realistic looking color you can get to a shad. So let's head on up to the truck, get a little more detailed look at the bait and the gear and everything we're using today. The lure we used today to try to find these fish in the backs of these pockets was an LV500 made by Lucky Craft in a American shad color. It's about the most realistic looking color that you can possibly get when you're trying to match shad hatch. The gear we used today was a Revo STX in a 7-to-1 gear ratio, because you're moving real fast with your boat, you're covering a lot of water, and you're actually fishing these things in about 5 foot of water, so you're really burning them. The line that we used was 40-pound Daiwa Samurai braid. I prefer the braid because if you get hung up on a little bit of grass, you can rip it free, and that's usually when fish reacts to it and bites. And the other thing is you're making long casts with these things, and if you get fish that are just slapping at this bait, you can get a real positive hook set real quick. The rod I was fishing them on, it's a Dobbins Champion Series. It's a 734. It's a 7'3", 4-power rod. It's a really fast tipped rod, so you can throw the bait a long ways. It's got a lot of backbone, so when these fish slap at it, you can drive the hooks into the side of their face or inside their mouth real fast. So that was the gear that we used today. I'm Randy McAbee, Tackle Warehouse Pro. Check back next week for some more fall fishing tips.